station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Now back to the Geek Speak Radio Show.
Don't be too proud of this technological terror you've constructed.
On TalkZone.com. And we're back on the Geek Speak Radio Show, having a nice conversation with Jami. He is the creator of Star Wars Begins. You've all seen it. Again, it's up on GeekSpeakRadioShow.com. The links to our YouTube page, it's all on there. But like I said, watch it after we finish this interview because Jamie's on the phone with us right now. Right, Jami?
I'm good, thank you.
Yeah, so what do you do professionally?
I work in the television industry in the UK. I say in the UK, but I'm a freelancer, but I do travel around the world working on sporting events mainly.
So that's why it has a professional feel to it.
Well, you know, I wanted to get into post-production initially, and I did have a little foray into the film world. I worked for a company that supplied editing equipment, but it was a kind of a dead-end job. It just was driving a van around London and delivering Steenbeck film benches and setting up Avids and things, and I didn't really get involved. Got to meet a few cool people along the way, met Tim Burton, Sidney Pollack, but that job wasn't really going anywhere, so I then moved over into live television. A lot of the principles in live television are getting things done very quickly. It's a very sort of rough and ready thing. You know, you're making things look live that were recorded maybe a few minutes ago. Whereas something like Star Wars Begins and the other two projects, you know, it's a lot of preparation, consideration. You know, you kind of mull over things a lot, and it's a lot more of a slow process. So there are some skills that are transferable. You know, that understanding the language of editing a little bit helps, but yeah, maybe this will help me kind of delve into the post-production arena a little bit more.
Jami, I was just wondering, have you got any feedback at all from George Lucas regarding this?
I haven't. I don't think it's going to happen, to be honest, because I think if they do, if they do kind of shut me down, as it were, I think that they would look bad. I think if they said acknowledged my work and maybe praised it, I think then they would be in a difficult position.
Right.
But I think that George Lucas and Lucasfilm themselves are canny enough to know that things like this don't do any harm to their franchise.
Exactly.
In the last 2 weeks, my Star Wars Begins film has been on the AOL homepage. It's been on Wired. It's been on Collider. It's been on Cinematical, on Topless Robot, and loads of sites all over the world, loads of blogs. It's been tweeted thousands of times on Twitter. You know, it's not going to do the franchise any harm, and this isn't a critical piece. No. It's a project I did with a genuine affection for the films. So, and I think that Star Wars has been the spark of creativity for so many people in the arts. You know, be it on radio, online, or TV, or film, or graphics, or anything like that. You look on, say, Etsy.com and look up Star Wars. You know, there's people knitting Star Wars characters. You know, it sparks lots of different kinds of artistry. So I think that Lucas and Lucasfilm are aware of that, and you know, they're aware of the benefit of it.
Yeah, the love and admiration and affection definitely comes through, but it's also an honest look at Star Wars at a moment in time. And the thing that I want to ask you as a fan, how do you feel about, and I know it's his property and he can do whatever he wants with it, but there's like a sort of revisionist history look back at it, you know?
Yeah, I think, you know, it has been a very long time, and I think there are probably parts of the process that George has genuinely forgotten about, you know? But I did kind of, like, as you say, I wanted to give a more sort of grounded reality to Star Wars Begins and get clips of the cast and crew talking about it at the time. You know, we all know that the Sandcrawler set blew over, and, you know, he had a director of photography in Gil Taylor that didn't like him, didn't get on with him, and a British crew that, you know, would break for tea at twice a day, right, you know, because of the unions. But and he had a lot of problems to go up against. But I can kind of see why he kind of sanitizes the story a little bit, because he's probably tired of reliving it.
Right, I'm sure.
You know, and equally, I can see why now he likes sitting in a small studio with a green screen with a chair with his name on the back, pointing at monitors, and correcting most of the problems in the special effects room.
You and Larry mentioned this a second ago, how Star Wars touches generations, everybody around the world. Now, for you, what was the reaction that you had when, I don't know if you even heard the announcement that the movies are coming back theatrically post-converted to 3D? What'd you think about that, including the originals?
I think, George Lucas and Lucasfilm have always been at the forefront of technology. Even though they're kind of late on the Blu-ray release, they were very big on shooting films on digital, after they did The Phantom Menace. And they're always trying to push the envelope, and they've done lots of amazing things with coming up with edit systems early on and doing lots of things in education and interactivity. But I think the 3D I think 3D is already dying, I get the feeling. I mean, I don't know about in the US, but certainly 3D viewing numbers are down.
Not over here. Doesn't feel like it, at least.
Particularly those that have been retrofitted with 3D. I think that the audience is becoming a bit more savvy, and they know the difference between a film that was shot in 3D and a film that was, dimensionalized, as they call it. Yeah.
Thank you, Clash of the Titans.
Yeah. Oh my god, that was bad. It's like the Harry Potter Part 7A. I can't remember the title of it. They decided not to do it in 3D in the end because they tried to post-produce it in 3D and realised that they couldn't get the results they wanted in the time they wanted. But I work in an industry now that has 3D everywhere. Soccer over here is in 3D, as is rugby. We've even got darts, if you know what darts is in 3D. There's tennis in 3D, and it's kind of driving my daily wage at the moment. So I'm happy for 3D to be there, but I just don't think we need another reissue of Star Wars in an updated form. I think what a lot of the fans, like myself and the people that have viewed my Star Wars Begins on YouTube, what they want is the original trilogy in its original state on Blu-ray,
absolutely
cleaned up, like we've had with Butch Cassidy and films from before Star Wars, and they look fantastic. I'm just a little bored with the kind of revisions that he's making with every release.
Yeah, just to digress a little bit regarding sports in 3D, was by any chance the Manchester United Manchester City broadcast 3D? Because that Rooney kick would have been awesome on 3D.
I'm not sure if that was in 3D. If it was Sky, it would have been in 3D. I've been out of the country for the last week and a half, so I'm not sure what's gone on. I'm not a big soccer fan, but I do work on soccer, so I have to kind of pretend I'm a big fan.
I hear you.
But it does look great. But I think a lot of the problems with 3D are that the program output is being decided based on how 3D something looks rather than whether it actually shows what's happening analytically. Sometimes with the 2D broadcast, I might be sitting there as an editor putting some analysis together to show at half time. And it's got to show all the salient points, if there have been any contentious decisions. But in 3D, it's just all about, look how 3D this looks. Right. It's kind of taken away from the actual content and relying more on what the technology can show off. I can kind of see that Sky TV's point because they want to advertise their new brand, as it were.
Geek Speak Radio Show will be right back.